All right, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the hybrid in-person and online webinar event on bringing EPA's clean school bus funding to your school district. And we are live here in Escanaba, Michigan, working with some folks up at Bay College in the UP, and we are also live streaming across the state. So thanks to everyone who is here. My name is Eileen Boekestein. I coordinate environmental education programs at the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. And our environmental education program, in partnership with EGLE's Material Management Division sustainability programs, are bringing this event to you today. All right, so just a couple notes for those of you who are on Zoom. All your lines will be muted during the webinar, and the webinar is being recorded. So if you have to hop off or if you want to share with someone later, the recording will be available after the webinar, and you will probably get an email with that link afterwards. If you are wanting to ask questions on the webinar, we will, if we have time at the end of presentations, take questions. Otherwise, we'll be holding questions till the end of the presentations. We have several presenters today. You can submit your questions at any time using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can also raise your hand by clicking the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. And if you are calling in on a telephone, you can raise your hand and ask a question live by hitting #2. So with that, I am going to hand this over to Irene Queen, who is an environmental analyst in the Materials Management Division here at EGLE, and she's going to give you an overview of today's event.
Thanks, Eileen. Today we're going to have representative from EPA to tell us about the Clean School Bus Program, the current and future opportunities there, and where we have individuals that have worked or participated in Michigan's electric school bus pilot, and they're going to tell us all about electric school buses in Michigan that are already operating and some of the benefits and challenges. Then we're going to hear from a utility that partnered with some students and some winners that they competed in a national program, and we've got a UP winner there. And then I'll tell you a little bit about grants opportunities from Michigan's Clean Diesel program. And then Eileen will come back again and talk about some of EGLE's environmental educational supports for a new energy future. Unfortunately, our electric school bus demonstration, we had some transportation difficulties, so we're only going to be able to share that with you via a pre-recorded video. So much apologies for that. So are we ready to do the video now? Okay, so bear with me a minute while I figure out how to do that. Oh, these are the speakers today. And I think now we're going to go to a video. So Chrissy, help me out with this here. Bear with us now.
Hi, I'm Mark Joseph with Thomas Go Bus, and this is Julie, our electric school bus. She's one of the 17 electric school buses that will be hitting the streets of Michigan really soon. So the exciting thing about electric school buses in Michigan is the future is coming. There are no limits. So students who ride the school bus will benefit from bypassing that type of baseball grant. We're looking at a line electric school bus that's 100% electric. Bus is so much quieter, so when students get to school in the morning, they'll be much more ready to learn. It's a much quieter atmosphere at the bus. Let's say your school had a power outage, they would bring the bus to the school, plug it in, and the bus could actually run the school for a few days before they had a juice. It's fun to be with a community that is interested in the innovative, on the cutting edge, and making our planet more green. How we have to go about it.
I think what's really inspirational about these buses for the kids that will ride them is that it bookends their school day. So they start by getting on a sustainable school bus and they end their day by getting on this school bus. And it just acts as a reminder of how we can incorporate sustainability into your everyday, into your education.
So now I'm going to invite Frank Acevedo from USEPA, and he's going to tell us about the programs that is open right now, and what's available and what will be available in the future. So here you go, Frank.
Sounds good. Thank you, Irene. And thanks again for having me here in beautiful Escabana. One of the things that we'll be talking about here is the great opportunity that, we're coming down to the wire here for the first year of funding, but it's a great opportunity. Thank you. Okay. Great opportunity for districts and for applicants to be able to apply for funding for new cleaner school buses. One of the things that we say, obviously, school buses is the safest way for kids to get to schools, and we want to make those not only the safest but the cleanest option. So that is one of the things that we want here. Now, let me see if I can make this work. Oh, there we go. All right, so what are we talking about here? Well, this is under the bipartisan infrastructure law, $5 billion that's available over 5 years for the replacement of these little school buses with, clean school buses or zero emission school buses. There's basically a component here that is primarily focused on electric or zero emission school buses, but also cleaner options for propane and CNG. Now, this is a new replacement program, and this is the way that we're doing it right now under the first component is a rebate program. So now the way we look at this is it's a 5-year program, so it's a living program. Right now we're looking at different options under the bill. We have the options to explore contracts, rebates, grants. But we started off with the rebate program just because that's something that we've had experience under the Diesel Emission Reduction Act program, and so this is a great way to optimize that and move it forward. So as we mentioned, it's been open. This rebate program has been open since May 20th, and the application closes tomorrow at midnight Eastern time. So I know folks are right now scrambling to get that in-house. The great thing about this that is different from what we've done in the past is that now everything, the application is online. So we can, the districts and the applicants can do that without having to submit that information as a paperwork exercise. One of the things that keep in mind when we talk about eligible applicants, I mentioned applicants, but there's a couple of things that are outlined in the bill and as part of their program. So it primarily eligible applicants as state and local government entities that are responsible for providing bus service to one or more public school systems or the purchase of school buses. Non-for-profit school transportation associations. I know one of our partners here in Michigan, the Michigan Association of Pupil Transportation, have been a great partner with us on the outreach effort. That's an example of an eligible nonprofit. Indian tribal organizations or tribally controlled schools, and eligible contractors. And eligible contractors here is kind of a little bit different than what folks are used to thinking about when we think of eligible contractors in the past for our previous programs. that's kind of more of the private contractor that services school districts. Here, we're talking about things like OEMs or dealerships associated with the production finance of school buses. So real quick, the idea when we opened this up was to have $500 million in rebates for the first year, followed by an additional $500 million for a grant component program towards the end of the year. And the idea here would be up that any eligible applicant can apply for up to 25 buses. Now that being said, this right now is like I said, it's it's closing tomorrow at midnight, but we've seen a lot of movement as far as the applications that we've been receiving. So I think this will be a great success. And hopefully, it's a good problem to have. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in the program. The key thing here is, the way that we, everything is tracked for any kind of federal funding. You have to go through. You have to have a SAM.gov registration, and that's kind of the thing that is probably the hardest thing to make sure you manage, and because it takes a little bit of time to actually, if you haven't updated it, to get that, and it's outside of EPA control. So it's one of those things that it tends to be the thing that delays folks a little bit more. But if it's up to date, and if your school district receives any kind of federal funding, you have a SAM.gov registration number. And then obviously we have on our page epa.gov clean school bus / clean school bus program guide, a lot of the information on what things to consider, things that are important as you apply the information that you need to go through. The key thing, once you get past the whole, the SAM.gov and just actually getting the information, the most important thing is obviously talking to your utility and see if you're applying for zero school buses. Reason for that is you want to make sure that what you're applying for, that you can handle, that your facility can handle the capacity for that, and to make sure that they're to find out what other incentives are there for your district, for your school fleet. Again, application closes tomorrow at midnight. I will say that a number of times. So the good thing here is that any school district is eligible, and when I say any school district that has an NCES, a National Center for Education Statistics number, is eligible to apply, but there is additional funding for what we call priority applicants. And what that means, there's 3 groups that fall into that. That's high need school districts and low income areas, rural school districts, and tribal school districts. And this just kind of walks through some of the definition as far as what, how you fall into that. But this becomes really important when you think about like the level of funding that you're receiving, and you'll see that in just a bit. Now, some of the guidelines that are key. This is for buses eligible for replacement must be 2010 or older diesel powered school buses that will be scrapped if selected for funding. If a fleet has no eligible 2010 or older diesel buses, then and it's requesting zero emission school buses, then a fleet can either sell, donate, or scrap any of the 2011 or newer IC buses, internal combustion engine buses. In addition, as far as eligibility is concerned, we're talking about buses have to be more than 10,001 pounds gross vehicle weight rating. It must be operational at the time of the application is submitted. And the key here is that the school district has to provide service to its school district for at least 3 days per week on average during the 21-22 school year. You know, now this is obviously excluding some of the COVID-related school closures. The new replacement buses, they have to have a battery, battery electric, CNG or propane, as I mentioned before, as far as their drivetrain. It has to be EPA certified for model year 2021 or newer. Again, it's got to be 10,001 pounds GVWR. Not to be, can't be ordered prior to actually being receiving a notification that that you've been selected for funding, and it can't be it has to be purchased. It can't be leased or leased to own. And here's the key when we talked about the priority component. You know, this is where it makes a difference. As far as the amount of funding that we're talking about, this is up to, you know, this is $375,000 for a class 7 bus. So that's like the big typical kind of school bus that you normally see. So as you can see, this is a significant amount of money. Even if you're not in a priority district, the funding level, if selected, it would be $250,000. So the idea there is that for non-priority school districts, that even if you, you know, if you front the cost of a regular diesel bus, you still, you know, you should be able to cover the cost, the total cost of a new electric school bus with this funding. In addition to the funding per bus, this is per bus, there's also infrastructure funding that's available primarily for charging. So that would be $20,000 per electric bus in your application for priority applicants and $13,000 for non-priority applicants. So that will, you know, that will ensure, or at least it will cover the cost of the charger, like at least a level 2 charger, which is the typical kind of charger that you'll normally see for overnight charging. But the key thing here is that that $20,000 or $13,000 would be per bus in your application. So like I mentioned before, a lot of information on our site, program guide with a lot of the details on the things that are a must. Another thing that's on our website, Q&A, that kind of a lot of the questions that have come up since the program has opened are available on the site. And that's a good kind of quick way to get some information on some of the key issues that you might run into. And then that's where we provide any update on that. Questions, obviously the clean school bus at epa.gov. I encourage anyone, any kind of question, any kind of concerns on how the program's structured, ideas for future, all those things, I would ask folks to kind of submit that feedback because it does make a difference for us. We are able to see where we're falling short, where we can make improvements for next year. Like I said, we're in year 1 of a 5-year program. And the idea here is that we're learning from experience. So we're seeing a lot of things right now that we know we can improve. And so we are making those, you know, we are planning to make those changes as we move forward. And also any questions to reach out to us at the regional level. I'll think the next page here. Yep, there it goes. Here's our in region 5, which covers the states that you see up there, the Midwest states. These are the folks that will be able to answer your questions and can provide additional guidance on anything that you might have concern with. One more time, closes tomorrow at midnight. There is no penalty for applying at the last minute other than stress. So you know, on your side, not I'm fine. You know, but it will just keep that in mind that even if you're not, even if you're not able to get it in at this point, that there will be more opportunity as we move forward. In addition to EPA funding, the Department of Energy and Department of Transportation are also have additional kind of component that is more on the infrastructure side of things. When I mean infrastructure, our charging infrastructure funding covers anything from basically the fuse box in up to, but anything as far as, that requires change to the wiring outside of the building to bring additional power, that's where something like the Department of Energy and Department of Transportation funding will be key. In addition, some states, and I know Michigan is kind of one of them, that is looking at other options to kind of help on that end of it, in finding kind of creative ways of being able to get additional funding to help, cover any kind of funding that might be needed on the infrastructure component. I'm sure I missed a whole bunch, but I tried to do it really quick so we can give other folks some time here. Thank you. And I know questions at the end, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Frank.
No problem.
Appreciate it. And so now we're going to have a panel come up and talk to you. If you guys want to come up and grab a mic, it'll be Katrina Morris from Michigan Association of Pupil Transportation. And I'm going to let you introduce everybody as they come up, because these are folks that have had the experience of either providing an electric school bus, operating them. And so we are going to be able to hear from folks. So come on up, Kenny Jean and Rick. And let me give you some mics here.
That one for to the right.
Here's one here, and here's one for you.
Thank you. So again, my name is Katrina Morris, and I am the Executive Director for the Michigan Association for Pupil Transportation, also known as MAPT. But I have a couple different roles, so I am unique in the fact that I also run a transportation department. So I am the Transportation Director for the West Shore ESD. In that, I have 12 buses that go and run. We are about the size of Delaware. So a little background, when we kicked this off 4 years ago to do a pilot program, I was totally against electric buses. With it being said that I am the size of Delaware, and I only have 120, 130 kids. That's not a whole lot, but it's very, very rural. After talking to a lot of the people in the industry, going and actually driving one of these buses, it very quickly changed my mind. So we are actually applying for this. Moving forward, here's some history on how we got where we are with MAPT. MAPT represents 820 school bus fleets in the state of Michigan. We put information out to those bus fleets through all the superintendents. So it is a very efficient way of getting information out to them. In 2018, MAPT worked with 7 districts to bring electric school buses to Michigan through the DERA and VW grants. In 2020, the first electric school bus rolled into Michigan, and currently we have 17 electric school buses running in Michigan. Here is a map, and as you'll see, the red dots, those are all the districts in the areas that are currently running electric school buses. So they are very vast. You have some of them that are very rural. You have some of them that are urban areas and more in town. So it really does work in all different areas. As you'll see, the farthest one north is Gaylord, and we have someone from Gaylord who's going to talk to you. That's the snow belt of the world, I think, right there. So if you're wondering, are these going to work in snow? He'll tell you that they're going to work in snow. Okay. So what does MAPT have to offer, and what have we been doing with EGLE and with the EPA? Is we are offering to help any district, school district, fill out the application. We are putting districts in touch with similar districts, as you will hear from 2 of them today, that are already running electric school buses. That kind of helps answer a lot of the questions, the technician questions, driver questions, business office questions. There's always stuff surrounding that. And then we help with communication with the electric companies. We've had a webinar with the electric companies to get everybody together with the supervisors. So it has been a very efficient way of doing things. And then we're also working with Lansing for funding moving forward for the electric school buses, because we know that in 5 years, if we don't have more money through the government, then how do we pay for these? So we are fiercely advocating for a couple bills that are through the Senate and the House right now, and they are for the sinking funds. So we'll see what happens with those, but we know that this is something that is going to continue to grow. So we just want to be on the forefront of it instead of trying to catch up at the end. After the grants are awarded, we will offer the districts who are awarded the grants membership or mentorships with the districts that are currently running the electric buses. We have to remember that it's not just the school districts. We also have to get the community involved, because you have to get EMS and fire rescue, law enforcement, all of them on board to understand what it is and what these buses do, and how do they have to approach the scene of an accident should one be in an accident. We have Doug, as you'll hear from him in just a minute, is a technician genius, and he will help to offer a lot of that training for districts who are wondering, how do we work on these buses? What does it entail? What can we do next? And then we're still going to continue to lobby in Lansing for additional funding, because it's all about getting that money. If you're wondering if these are real, here's a picture of Kenny Jean, and she won the School Transportation News National Renewable Energy Laboratory presents the Green Bus Summit Fleet Award for the Rural District Under 50 bus category. So this was presented to her in Reno last month, and she did it. It's just a little tiny, small 3 Rivers here in Michigan. She's very rural, and she's running electric buses, and she's doing it. So I'm going to introduce our panelists, and then we're going to ask a whole lot of questions and put them on the hot spot. So first off, we have Douglas Francis. He is newly retired school bus technician for Gaylord Community Schools. We have Kenny Jean Schrader, who is transportation director for 3 Rivers Community School. And we also have Rick Lee, who is the director of the U.S. bus sales for Lion Electric. So here goes the hot seat. First off, there's a lot of questions on, are these really efficient? Are these going to really save you money? Because they're a whole lot of money up front, right? So I'm going to start with Kenny Jean. She knew this was coming. And I'm just going to ask that she tell you about her recent route that she did between, she's going to talk to you about a route that she ran and the difference between what it would have cost if she would have ran diesel versus what it cost when she was running electric. So Kenny, I'm going to turn it to you for a minute.
Thank you, Miss Morris. I find our electric school bus fleet very fascinating. It's a learning experience every day, and I occasionally enjoy getting out and riding that electric or driving that electric school bus to see what I can do to maximize efficiencies. Diesel, electric. So I enjoy learning from this vehicle. So recently I decided to run a route. The route was approximately 23, 26 miles. Now, if I would have driven that route, I'm going to include the maintenance portion of this equation. If I would have ran that route in a diesel bus at what we are currently paying per gallon for diesel, that route would have cost me approximately $20 to run. It doesn't seem like $20 is a significant amount to transport students. In my electric bus, when I returned from the route, utilizing the regeneration of the battery technology and braking system, it cost me 13 cents to run that same route. So they work, they're efficient, and we can't wait to see what we do next.
Okay, so Doug, you've got the next hot seat, my friend. As far as working on the buses and the breakdowns and stuff like that, can you please go into what is it about these buses that makes them maybe easier or a little bit more complicated when something breaks down?
Well, first of all, with these electric buses, they don't have an engine to repair, a DEF system to fill and repair. We don't have a transmission on the Lion electric buses anyways. So there's no engine issues, no transmission issues, and no DF system issues to deal with.
How many moving parts are on the electric school bus?
Well, most of them just have a gas pedal, batteries, and electric motor. Some brands do have maybe a 2-speed automatic transmission, but the number of parts are significantly less on an electric school bus versus a fossil fuel vehicle.
Okay, one more question. Can you tell me how many moving parts are on a diesel bus?
Whole bunch. You're talking all the internal works of the engine. You're talking pistons, camshafts, all the inner working, the pistons going up and down, the ejectors, fuel system, the electronics for the engine. There's multiple parts on a diesel engine.
Just if I'm going to ask a question, how do you go in? I'll ask this to Rick. Rick, if I have an electric bus and it breaks down, what do I have to do? How do I know what to do? If there's no moving parts for a technician to look at, how do we move forward?
Check 1, 2. Hey, here we go. Yeah, so today's new style of school bus in terms of electric involves a laptop. A lot of the components on a school bus are software driven. The only mechanical part, at least on a line electric, and I think some of my other OEMs are the same, is the traction motor. Beyond that, the electrical system is all software driven. A lot of it is done through the cloud, through your laptop. So the days of opening up your toolbox are over. It's plugging in a laptop. You might have a technician from the OEM on the phone with you going through some data and looking at different software parameters. But that is how you fix an electric bus now. It's the laptop and understanding software. And I'll take that to the next step. We talk about young children leaving high school and going to vocational schools and learning how to be a Cummins engine mechanic. Now you've got a new phase out there for young kids to look at Eevee school bus and vehicles, and brings them to a different stage of a job. So yeah, it's a lot different. It's a change, but it's a change well received at least with our customers.
Very good. Doug, I'm going to ask you, you drove a route with an electric bus for a year. Can you please tell me the experience that you had driving that bus, as well as what did your kids think about that bus?
Well, first of all, in Gaylord, we have lots of snow. So I didn't see, and none of our drivers ever mentioned to me that we had any kind of problems with performance in as far as traction or the regen system coming on and stopping the bus. So they performed very well. They were very warm. Our vehicles have a diesel fired heater on them. We used typically 5 quarts of fuel per day just to keep our buses warm, and in temperatures as low as 20 below. For the students, the vehicles are absolutely quiet. When there's no heaters on the buses, you can literally talk just like I am right now to the students in the back of the bus, and they can hear you. You don't have to raise your voice. It's absolutely quiet. It's like you're coasting down the road when you're driving an electric vehicle. So the noise level for students is it's helped manage students. And with Lion buses, they're 6 inches wider. The aisleway is wider, so that I believe that's helped also with the management of students.
So are you saying that you see less behavioral issues then, maybe because of the wider buses and the quieter?
I can say that they're significantly quieter. They don't have to raise their voice with the engine roar inside, in the bus. You don't have the echo from the engine. So they seem to act a lot different. And in the event you take the bus away for a day or two and you put them back in a fossil fuel vehicle, they react differently. They don't like it. They really like riding in at least a Lion electric bus, what we had in Gaylord.
So Kenny, I'm going to ask you the same thing. Although you have not driven the bus on a daily route, what do your drivers say about driving that electric bus? And
We have 2 electric buses in Three Rivers. our drivers experience that the student management is much easier to handle, especially when we're having large groups of students on the buses. You can communicate to the students much more clearly. The voice levels seems to stay down, and it's just a much more well-rounded experience. We also find that the environment for the students, it's going to provide them with a better learning environment. We don't have students who are at buildings or on the bus who are breathing in noxic gas emissions from tailpipes. So we feel that the electric school bus is all the way around providing a better environment for all of our students and staff.
So you brought up something kind of interesting, which was the learning component of this whole thing. So how are you using the electric school bus as a learning component? So I'll ask all of you guys, how are you guys delivering that to school? Because it is really a whole school involvement, correct?
Indeed. We're working with our partners at our ISDs and our construction trades programs within our county to bring the electric bus as a learning opportunity, even to our robotics teams. Our drivers enjoy sharing information about their electric bus with their students because they're very inquisitive and they want to know what makes this different than what my other school bus was. And the drivers just enjoy sharing that information. So we're really looking forward, as Mr. Lee stated, what's happening with graduating students, how we're going to be able to even further utilize the technology of electric school buses in an educational setting.
I think I'll jump in really quick just to kind of give you a scenario what Line Electric, our business strategy is. Not only are we talking to administrators, but we want to talk to community members, school board members, to give them a comfort zone because change is hard. So a lot of our job is educational, not only bringing the 6 wheels and a yellow body, but we try to bring the whole experience to them about charging infrastructure. Recently, we went to Ithaca, New York and met with a bunch of vocational school students, and these young minds were, their class was software, computer software. And that goes back to my previous statement that when you go talk to young people, they're crawling underneath the bus and they're amazed at what's not down there. They're expecting more. But when you start showing them the software components, they all get their eyes bright and they're saying, now I know why I'm studying this, because this is the future of transportation in the world. So we take it to the next level. Not only do we talk about the bus, but we talk about the learning experience throughout the community.
Our superintendent and our school board was really on board with this whole project being piloted for Michigan. They all felt that it would be a good learning tool, cutting edge for our school children in our district. I personally, we personally brought in our EMS people and given seminars, presentations about them, what to expect if there's an incident that they're around the vehicle. We've had our fire department there a couple of different times and showing them what the vehicle is and what do you have to do if there's a fire or something in the vehicle to make sure they were armed. We've also, we've placed our buses on different routes, short routes, long routes, routes as long as 123 miles with 125-mile range to prove that these vehicles do work. And we've actually teamed up with the city of Gaylord, who just received a couple of years ago, received grants for 4 different chargers for the city of Gaylord.
So if I'm a district that has 12 buses and I have a few spares, so let's say I have 15 buses, would you recommend that I get all 15 brand new buses electric and sign up for the grant for 15?
I'd love to sell you 15, but being transparent in the EV world, battery technology is what's going to drive the next step of this process. And range anxiety is always a big component. For a situation like you, I would say no. You need long range vehicles for sporting events, maybe going to Lansing with the kids at the Capitol. We're not there yet. None of the OEMs have that range to fulfill all the requirements that a school district needs in a bus. So you need to be transparent, go through route demands, do a complete analysis. Again, I'd love to sell you everything you have, but you're not going to like me when you find out you can't take a bus to Lansing. So, you know, there's some components and some thought process when you do decide to bring Eevee into your deployment.
So I'll ask Doug and Kenny Jean, how did that work for you guys? How hard of a time did you guys have looking at what routes you guys could put these buses on?
For Three Rivers, we wanted to ensure that we were creating the greatest impact for our community. So we ran one bus long range. I'm going to say a 75-mile range. Our district covers 139 square miles. The other bus, we assigned it to more of our in-district areas where we pick up larger groups of students at one time. Both of those buses have also supported students that are enrolled in the district but do not live in the district. So our in-town route runs approximately 50 miles a day. We have not experienced a concern of not having enough battery charge left in order to support those students who live outside of the district. What we do in the winter as a precautionary measure is we will charge our buses for a couple hours during the day. We've negotiated, do you want me to go into that right now? We worked diligently on a partnership with our power company from the very beginning to, what do you think of this idea? And that is a partnership that continues to go to this day. When we installed our chargers, we installed a level 2 charger for each bus. Our chargers are on at 9 o'clock at night, and they go off at approximately 5 a.m. in the morning. We negotiated a tariff with our power company at 9 cents per kilowatt to charge during that time. So we are very fortunate to have started the process as early as we did in order to be able to have these opportunities. Now, yes, it does cost us more during the day to charge. I believe we're right at 14 cents per kilowatt. That is a very important component. So with being able to charge the buses for a couple hours during the day, if they're not out on another assignment, has provided us with ample battery capacity to accomplish what we need to accomplish in our district. Thank you.
Doug, how did you guys, what was the process like for you guys when you went through looking to see what routes could handle this and how that was going to impact your district?
Well, our superintendent came to me and said, so, you know, we've had people ask, our board ask, and citizens of Gaylord Community Schools ask, we're going to put these buses, and his response is, we're going to put them on short routes. And he came and approached me about it, and I said, absolutely not. This is a pilot program. We're going to see what these vehicles can do. So we had one bus that ran at least 100 miles a day on a route, and we had another one that had a short route in town, but it drove 53 miles a day on a shuttle. So it probably ran 93 miles a day, and one ran just over 100 miles a day. Well, our buses have 125-mile range, and we never had a problem with the range for those two routes.
Can any of you guys tell me, where are we at with the range? Because there is a lot of range anxiety. Obviously, we can't take a bus from the UP down to Gaylord, you know, for a sporting event yet. So where are we at with the range limits being raised?
So our buses have 125-mile range, and I've heard numbers as high as 200 miles on certain brands. Range anxiety is kind of like your cell phone, which I don't have right now with me, but if you remember when we got first received cell phones, you had to charge your phone quite often because it would go dead. Well, now what do we do every night or whenever we, oh, I got to plug my phone in for a while. So you get accustomed, things are going to change with electric vehicles, but not necessarily in a bad way.
I guess to add a little more input, and I'm going to use Northern Missouri as an example. As EV deployments grow, you're going to find school districts performing a share program. And up in Missouri, we have 5 school districts that are all up on the northern Iowa border, and they play each other in sports. So they're running a 125-mile range, and they may drive 80 miles or 75 miles to get to Knox County or to Lewis County. But what the school districts are doing, they're sharing their chargers. So as the competition is being played, they're plugged into that school's charger because they have electric school buses also. And I think as over the next 5 years in Michigan, you're going to find that Greenville and all these other schools, if they bring EV deployments in, you're going to have the flexibility to navigate and negotiate using an electric bus on outside routes in sporting events, because you have a school district that will support your electric school bus, just like you would support them when they come to your hometown. So I think, as time grows, things are going to change. Battery technology changes monthly. It's a driving force. So 5 years from now, we may see a 300, 400, 500 mile range vehicle. As technology grows, so will range.
So how long does it take to charge an electric bus? We have 2 slow chargers, and it takes our buses roughly 7.5 hours a night to charge. That's slow charge. If you have fast chargers, that time is cut in third.
So why don't you, Doug, tell me the differences between because I believe it's called the DC fast charger, as well as the level 2. So can you tell me the difference, and does that have any effect on the battery?
From what I'm told from Lion, whether you slow charge or fast charge, you see very little difference in the life expectancy of the battery. These buses have not been out very long, but what they've seen so far, and Rick can talk more about that, we've not seen no long-term effect on the battery, just if you use slower charge. There is a considerable difference in the price of the chargers if you go with a fast charger versus a slow charger, and they require more power for the fast chargers. So your district or your department or your building may not be set up for that.
I guess take it to the next level. A level 2 is a 19.5 kilowatt charger, and a level 3 can run anywhere from 45 kilowatts up to 55 to 60. We have found that the most popular level of charge is a level 2, because number 1, it's economically appealing. Anywhere from, you're going to pay about $7,500, and a level 3 is going to be around that 50 grand mark. So you got to break down your route demands, what fits best economically into your route. We have found also, like Kenny had suggested, school buses are perfect. You charge during the night during low rate hours. If you need the extra charge in the afternoon, that level 2 can pretty much replenish over a 4-hour period what you ran off in the morning. So school buses are perfect fit for a level 2 EV type of application. Again, I'm not saying level 3 is not the answer, but right now the sweet spot is the level 2.
So I'm going to ask Kenny and Doug both this question. We all know that there is the regen braking, right? Did you have to teach your staff how to redrive those buses? Because I know when I did it, when I drove those buses, it was a different experience that I had to get used to. So how was that for your drivers?
It is a definite different experience. Doug used the analogy of a cell phone. Anybody remember rotary phones? Today, if you handed a student a rotary phone, they would look at that and like, what am I supposed to do with this? So the technology of operating an electric vehicle has some similarities to that. Veteran ICE bus drivers, internal combustion engine bus drivers have a tendency to want to hit that accelerator as hard as they can and hit that brake as hard as they can. With the electric buses, what we've found is it's a much smoother ride. So when you take your foot off of the accelerator, the regeneration process is going to start. It's going to pull back the bus, almost feel like a mild, like an easy brake, at which time the warning lights come on in the rear of the bus to let drivers let you know, or let them know that this vehicle is about to stop. Another safety issue on our buses on the electric buses is that because they make no noise. And I've had so many families call me and say, well, we didn't hear the bus come. So the thing is with the electric at under 18 miles an hour, 15, under 15 miles an hour, it plays a warning chime, which to me, it sounds like an ice cream truck coming down the road. So that has been a huge learning curve for families. The regen braking, you find that you do not need to hit that accelerator as hard or that brake as hard because the vehicle's assisting you to do that. That's what I have about regenning.
Doug, I'm going to ask you, with that regenning, how much more power does that give you? How much longer can you go?
Okay, so that's going to depend if you're rural driving or out in the country driving. If you're driving out in the country, you're just driving along steadily and you're just using power. You're not using your brakes or decelerating. I want to talk more about what Kenny was talking about here a second ago. So for years, the trucking industry talked about rolling resistance of a vehicle. We're trying to get less rolling resistance for better fuel economy. So when you would drive any diesel vehicle or a gas or a propane vehicle, you take your foot off the gas pedal, a school bus will coast for a long time, especially you get lots of students on, they'll coast for a long time. The electric buses with the regen system, the less range you have left on the battery range, the more aggressive the regen system comes on. So it kind of gives you a variety of driving when you're driving with the regen system. You know, again, the less range you have left, the more aggressive the regen system comes on, stopping you. So what Kenny did say, when the regen does come on, you take your foot off the gas pedal, they'll slow you down. And again, less range, more aggressively, and the brake lights do come on to warn the passengers or the people behind you.
It's called an accelerator, not a gas pedal.
That's right.
The only thing I would have to say is, with the ice cream truck music, I would be really bummed if I ran out there for ice cream. Didn't get any. Okay, I have another question that I get asked quite a bit. And Rick, this one's going to go to you. So your buses are composite body. Why is that legal? And I'm also getting asked about the weight. Does that make a difference then in the winter because the other buses are heavier, or are they heavier?
Those are all great questions, and those are questions that I have quite often with our potential customers. Lion Electric is not your 90-year-old legacy design vehicle. We took engineering and technology to the next level. We offer larger battery packs than our competition, and that is involved around the fact that our buses aren't as heavy. So we have the ability to give you more range in terms of battery pack. We are 33,000 pound GVWR. Our roof back wall has no seams. There is no leak points. It's all one piece composite. As a former athlete, it's not the skin, but it's the muscle and bones underneath the athlete that makes that person who he is. And I warn people, don't think composite is not as safe. We pass all the same FMVSS testing, all the crash testing, all the side pack impact testing. The only difference is it's not steel that rusts. We don't have a rusting exterior vehicle. Our step wells and wheel wells are also composite. So at year 8 or 9, you're not replacing a step well. And I'm not saying that the Bluebirds and all the other OEMs are worse or better. We just took the technology that's available now than what it was 90 years ago and brought it into the school bus world. So there's benefits in terms of weight. Our GVWR is less curb weight because we don't have the steel weight, we have the composite weight. So we can bring you another battery pack, another range of 155 because we have the GVWR rating left to do that. So there's benefits. across the board, but so we just do things a little bit different. That's all.
So Doug, when you were looking at fixing buses and you were the technician, how hard was this for you to get your head wrapped around? It's a computer and I plug it in.
Well, the industry's kind of prepped us. You know, some of the first buses I worked on were 1967 and 1969.
Be careful, you're going to age yourself.
Well, I'm there. What am I going to say? So, but electronics came in place, electronic ignition. Now you're talking electronic fuel injection. You know, there are 4 computers in a bus: body computer, transmission computer, engine computer. So we've been kind of prepped for this. So this is just the next level of electronics as far as I'm concerned.
So what would you tell a mechanic who is struggling with this whole new technology?
Whatever brand that you buy, you have to have a good relationship with the service department because we're going to need help. This is a new product. I've got to really know and understand the service people at Lion. They've been excellent for us in our district. I've helped them. They've helped me. So I think it's important because this is a brand new product that we really work close with our dealerships, no matter what brand you buy.
Kenny, you had comment?
Yes. Again, whenever you're looking at school bus electrification, again, no matter which vendor you choose, it's about a continued relationship, ongoing, because it's not going to stop here. This is electric school buses are here to stay. And we need to continue to embrace that technology and use it every day. I wanted to backtrack a little bit to the driver's experience and what Mr. Lee was saying about weight and that sort of thing. You know, we're above the I-90 corridor in Michigan also, and we have some hilly, slick, winding roads. What our drivers experienced over the ICE buses is that most of your weight in an ICE bus is right up front in front of you. And I've been one of those people that have drove one of those buses and slid sideways down a hill. The thing about the electric buses that we have, your center of weight is between those 2 axles, is where your weight is. And what we have found with our drivers and even the sub-drivers who occasionally drive them say, wow, this handles so much better in the poor conditions than a regular front engine bus does. I wanted to share that.
Doug, when you got your buses in, how much downtime did you have with them? I mean, what are some like issues that maybe you've had that somebody can expect to have?
Something that was new to our district was now we have a diesel powered heater, or a diesel fuel heater, and they kind of have their own little niche, but they have their own little issues, or not issues, things that weren't familiar with. So we had to learn that basically. We do have air ride suspension on our buses, so our buses have an electric air compressor. That's something new, an electric air compressor, not engine driven, engine powered. So there was some maintenance there that we had to learn. And when I'm talking maintenance, I'm talking about changing the oil in the air compressor and it holds a quart of oil, very minimal maintenance.
Rick, I'm going to ask you, what does, for special needs districts that maybe have to run air conditioning, how does that, to have the air conditioning draw off of that battery and reduce that battery?
That's a great question. We've had the ability through our telematics systems that grabs data from the vehicles from key on to key off. We're monitoring your bus as it moves forward. In California, where the majority of our Lion electric buses are deployed, they're averaging 1.2 kilowatt of extra battery power per hour of AC use. So if you're running 6 hours a day, 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, you're going to use right around 7 to 8 extra kilowatts to keep the comfort level inside those vehicles. And that's all data driven. That's our vehicles. I'm not saying the other OEMs might have different data, but that's where we're at currently in that feature.
And do either of you two have any air conditioning on your buses?
Three Rivers does not. Neither does Gaylord.
Okay. What do the kids, when you guys got these buses, did you bring the kids out to the buses at the school when they got there to show them these buses? And if you did, what did they think about this?
We've had a lot of interest in our high school students. When we began speaking with our board about bringing this, we had high school students actually show up at board meetings wanting to know, one, why haven't we already taken advantage of this? And when are we going to get them so we can learn and use these, again, as the learning tool? With our elementary, it's been a little different. We used it more as a safety zone, again, because an internal combustion engine bus makes a lot of noise and kids are used to that. With the electric bus, teaching the littler ones how to the safety zone of the bus, how important that is. Please pay attention to your bus driver, especially if you're crossing the street or the road, and obey their instructions. That has been a very important component, being that they are so quiet. We have to teach our children to be cautious of not only electric school buses, but electric vehicles in their communities as well.
So being part of the pilot program for Michigan, we were fortunate enough to be the first district in Michigan to actually receive our buses. So we were all over the local TV channels, local paper. I mean, our district was prepped by the media that we were going to get electric buses. So they were well informed that we were getting electric buses. When they finally hit the ground, the students were shocked, curious, interested, and late, a couple years down the road now, they're thrilled to have them. They love them,
Hold on.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. Here's a hot seat.
All right.
I've heard about the batteries setting on fire. Can you tell me how big of an issue this is and what people need to know?
We this came up a couple of weeks ago in New York when I met with a bunch of New York contractors, and I don't believe yet, and God forbid it never happens, that a school bus has had a combustion issue. We had a situation in Zealand where one of our school buses was T-boned by a car, and the structure of the vehicle did exactly what it was supposed to. It deflected the vehicle down underneath the floor line, and our batteries never got penetrated in any way, shape, or form. What we do differently also is we supply the driver and exterior shutoff switches, and the reason we do that is we don't want a driver uncomfortable not being able to control what happens with that vehicle. So if a driver is uncomfortable, they have the ability to shut off the high voltage. We tell first responders during our training that you treat this just like you would a Tesla. It's the same feature. It's just bigger. It's just a bigger vehicle, but it's the same technology. So when we talk about combustible situations, we've never experienced it. We hope we never do, but it's treated just like a personal car. It's no different.
So you brought up another point that I wanted to touch on, and that is what happens. I'm going to go back to the composite body.
Mm-hmm.
And so the bus got hit. What happened to the body of this? I mean, did it act just like the steel would? Were kids injured? What has your experience been with that?
No, the situation in Zealand, this is the only one that we've had an accident involved. Again, the compartment of the students was never penetrated. The vehicle was forced down underneath the floor line, so it did exactly what it is. And in that situation, you're replacing composite skin and composite side panes. That's the extent of the work. Obviously, there was some steel that had to be redone, but it's treated no different than it would if it was a legacy design without the rivets. That's the only difference. You're not dealing with rivets. You're dealing with just composite. It's not much difference. And one of the things I warn people, or I want to stress, don't overthink this. And I know Doug and Kenny will agree with me. I know it's change, but it's simpler than what some people want it to be. And as technology grows, it's only going to get smoother and better.
There's one other point that I wanted to make too, is after people are awarded these electric bus grants, MAPT wants to get everybody together and go in on the spec process with the districts, so that way we can spec them all together. And, you know, instead of ordering one bus at a time, order all of them through one dealer, all of them through another dealer. So that way, you know, it's all done at once and everybody knows what they're getting. So that is something else that we are offering once this is all done. I am going to, with that, we have just a little bit more time. So I guess if there's any questions, or did you want to hold them till the end? No? Okay, so we are going to be, that's the end of it. And then unless you guys have anything else to add, here is contact information for anybody up here. And as you can tell, they're pretty passionate about the electric buses that they run. So if you guys have any questions, they're constantly on the phone and doing emails. So please just reach out and let us know, and we would be more than happy to help you guys.
Thank you, Katrina.
Thank you all so much. That was a great presentation, and I appreciate you being here. Now we're going to welcome Andrew McNeilly from Upper Power Peninsula Company to talk to us about a program that that he worked on with National Energy Foundation and Electrify America, I think it was originally. So we'll load up his presentation, and Andrew is going to take it from here.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your patience. No, I have video clips in it. So do we need to? Okay. Thank you very much. Hope everyone can see the slides okay. I appreciate this opportunity to present. UPCO doesn't have any electric school buses in our service territory, but we have been doing electric education at the school level. So I just want to give a brief introduction. I'm the energy administrator for Upper Peninsula's energy efficiency programs. We focus on residential, commercial, and educational programs within our service territory. And today's talk is focused on the education because it's customers, it's students, it's anyone in our service territory. So we have been doing education at the school level, 4th grade level, for the past 10 to 12 years, working with National Energy Foundation. And in 2019, National Energy Foundation mentioned to me at a conference that they were looking to do an electric vehicle program. And I asked them right then and there, how can I be a pilot for that program? We're a small utility, 50,000 residential customers spread out over 4,400 square miles. So we covered basically the western half of the Upper Peninsula. And our density of customers is about 10 to 12 per square mile. That's just to show you how rural we are. So when National Energy Foundation came and said they were doing a program, I jumped at the opportunity. So from 2019 to 2020, even through the pandemic, we worked to develop a program. And they did all of the work. I did the opportunity to provide a pilot site. So one school in the Upper Peninsula was one of the 5 schools that piloted the program in the fall of 2021, in the fall of 2020, and then in 2021, National Energy Foundation expanded it, and then we expanded our program again this year in 2022. So this is just a brief introduction to NEF. They're a nonprofit, and they teach education across almost all of the country and in parts of Canada as well. So I just want to level set us a little bit with understanding why consumer EV interest and knowledge and education is important. As you can see from the very first bullet, Consumer Reports in 2020 said 98% of customers, not just students, customers had heard about EVs, but only 30% had any knowledge of it. So by looking at, again, getting to the students who earlier have mentioned, other speakers have mentioned, are our next generation, getting them the education at that middle school and high school level is key for us. So it's getting that information out to them. So when you're looking at customer outreach, there are 3 really basic areas that you can look at: awareness, education, and engagement. And I'm going to speak about our school engagement, but you can see, like Kenny and Doug were talking about experimental marketing or experiential, having that ability to be on the bus, that student riding on a quiet bus to school, getting off that quiet bus in the end of the afternoon. That's what I want to bring to the Upper Peninsula. We've just had the difficulty of getting schools to want to do that. I'm just going to throw out one example. So in the winter of 2019, we had a local bus garage collapse due to the amount of snow. The township and city of Negaunee lost every single school bus they had because of a roof collapse. But that school department wasn't interested in jumping in on the Michigan pilot program because they didn't believe the school buses worked. So they replaced 29 or 30 buses over the last 2 years to replace that. So that's an uphill battle, but that's just an example of this school district had an opportunity to replace their entire fleet because of an accident and didn't take up the electric school buses. So trying to get into the schools and get the students to understand the importance of electric vehicles, both for themselves, their parents, and the school, is where I have been pushing this program. So in partnership with National Energy Foundation, their program is called REV, and they call it an electrifying educational experience. It's an interactive program. It's targeted at middle and high school students. And what it is it's a program where a student learns about electric vehicles. And they do it through the school and home. The students learn about it at school, but they also take it home and have questions of their parents. So what we're seeing is a lot of the parents are starting to ask their kids about vehicles. If I'm going to go out and buy a new vehicle and I'm going to be transporting my kids to and from school, or this past year, my oldest son now has his driver's license. And he's like, well, Dad, I want to inherit that. I'm involving them in the buying process. So if the student says, Mom, Dad, we need an electric vehicle because it's better, it has less maintenance, it's cost effective, that helps us promote that down the road. Whether they go to a school board meeting and say, we need an electric bus, or they go and say, I need an electric car to drive you that way. So that's where we're trying to work with the school and the home education. So REV itself, as I mentioned before, secondary schools, we typically are middle school, 7th and 8th grade, or high schools 9 through 12. And it's in the program itself, through the whole pilot creation process, it was designed by educators for educators to tailor it for the customers, but it's also tailored to be implemented through electric utilities, because the electric utilities have been working with the National Energy Foundation for years, delivering right now our every fourth grader in our schools gets an energy education curriculum every fall. So in October, we'll have 12 to 1,400 fourth graders across our service territory that will learn about the basics of energy. This is that next step about how to use energy efficiently and effectively to help both themselves and the environment and climate around them. So for every utility that participates, they get a customized website. So if you were to go to reved, REVED.com or .org, I believe it, I'll have to double check, but /UPPCO, that is for all of the students that participate in our program. So I said we started with the pilot program. We started with 100 students in the 2020-2021 time period. This year at one school, this year we've expanded it to over 500 students in 6 schools. So we're slowly expanding that piece. And I'm not going to read through the slides. I don't know if the slides will be distributed to everyone. What I really want to get to is the videos at the end, because through this program, the REV Challenge, every student who participates is asked to create a 30 to 45 second video maximum. And those are then submitted, and out of thousands of students that participated in the REV program nationally, this past year, we had 2 students at one school won first place and runner-up. So what I want to do is get to their videos and also show the videos when the second to the last day of school, we were able to get up to the school and present them in person. So I want to get to that. So I'm going to go through the slides a little bit quicker here. The enrollment, the delivery, and data collection, I can share with you afterwards. You can contact me, but these just touch on the basics of how it's done. The teachers are asked to participate through the school. The utility supports the NEF to deliver the program free of charge to those teachers. So the teachers in the school never have any costs associated with this other than it's part of their regular curriculum. And it started as virtual because of COVID. And then this year it moved into in-person in that manner. So, and then they do some data collection of the students and the families throughout the process and reporting that way. So, so this is the grand prize winners. And I think I have to move the mouse to start it. So this young lady is, it's actually a 40-second video. This was the national winner for this spring of 2022. So the student, and I don't want to take away, but the student created all the music and all the graphics for this video that was presented in that manner. So hopefully everything works.
Electric vehicles, or EVs, are quickly becoming our future. This eco-friendly alternative to traditional combustion vehicles has 2 types, hybrids, or HEV, and plug-in EVs, or PHEV. Both overall emit less harmful emissions than a traditional combustion engine does. EVs often require less maintenance due to having fewer moving parts compared to the traditional combustion engine. EV charging stations can be found all over the US. They can even be charged at home. A plus side, most EVs can go 200 miles or more before needing a recharge. So, are you going to get an EV? Electric vehicles, or EVs, are quickly becoming our future. This eco-friendly...
Sorry, I had it on loop. So that was the winning video for the spring of 2022 for the REV program. The next video, and I'll warn you, the young gentleman speaks very quickly and says a lot of facts. But we fact checked every single fact that he made in that 45-second slide, and every single one was correct. Other students had similar videos, but their facts were not recorded anywhere. So he became the runner-up and go in that. So I just want to, before I play it, I wanted to give you the heads up because you do have to listen carefully. Okay, why is it not? It's not advancing. Oh, there it is. So this is Lucas. And as I said, 44 seconds, and it is full of facts.
Less than 1% of the 250 million cars, SUVs, and light-duty trucks on the road in the U.S. are electric. That's less than 2,500,000 EVs. And for that 2,500,000 EVs in the U.S., there are 109,307 charging stations. Worldwide, EVs only account for 2.2% of the global market. And because the average U.S. person drives 25.9 miles a day, and an EV can do that 9 times on one full charge, EVs are way more efficient and environmentally friendly than the traditional cars. So I ask you, what's your choice? EVs or traditional?
So as I said, and he's only 13 or 14 years old, and he took the time, and he connected it with everything he could. So for the honorable mention student, he won a GoPro set, a full GoPro system. And before we were even out of the school the day he got it, he's like, I am going to mount this on this and this and this, and had it. He's like, will this bracket fit on my electric car or my remote car that he had used? So this last video is from June 3rd, when we surprised the students. So I'm going to set the stage a little bit here before I play it, if it will advance. Okay. I don't know. It advanced last time by pushing the button again. So, oh, okay. Okay. Yep. So I'm going to pause this for just a second, or play it in just a second. So we being UPPCO and National Energy Foundation worked with the principal and the school administrator to surprise everybody. So we actually got a camera crew up. We notified their parents of the winners to come, and the grand prize winner won a $2,000 gift certificate for an e-bike. Her teacher also won a $2,000 gift certificate for an e-bike for supporting the program. And then, as I just mentioned, Lucas, who was the runner-up, got the full GoPro set. So this video compilation, it's about 1.5 minutes long, was created by National Energy Foundation and is on their website nationally for promotion of both the REV program and showing the awards. So I'll play this and we'll step back.
Right here. So by Mrs. G, we have a surprise for you. I'm a gentleman here from ALCO to talk to you about your
Nice to
submission
meet
to
you,
RED.
Irene. So you recently participated in a REV challenge sponsored by the National Energy Foundation. And you submitted a 30 to 45 second video. That video is the best in the country. So you have won a gift certificate for $2,000 towards a ebook.
It feels not real, but to be here and figuring out that it actually is happening, it's amazing.
I'm very proud of my students, but we got to learn about this together, and I think that's a whole different experience when your class and your teacher is learning together. The world is changing so fast with green energy, and what they were learning about is just new for everybody, not just their particular age group. And I think that was kind of a neat feeling for them.
So I understand that your video, you wrote the music.
So the REV Challenge is interactive and teaching the students something that's pertinent to them. The winning video, the young lady went and created her own music for the 30 to 45 second video. That's almost unheard of.
Like, we're working towards a better plan for the future, and that really just inspired me to just put my little spin on it.
Students, when they learn in the classroom, it's one thing, and that's great, but when they are able to apply what they learn to real-life context and feel like they're empowered to do something productive, like what these students did, that just makes learning even better and more meaningful.
It was just really challenging and fun. It's just an amazing feeling.
So that's the end of my presentation. I do have my contact information here on the next slide. But I can, if anyone has questions about the program, how our relationship with NEF has worked and what they can do, I'd be glad to answer those now or at any point in time. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Andrew. That's a tough act to follow because now I'm going to talk to you about a funding opportunity, which is not quite as exciting as what Andrew just told us about. I'm going to talk to you about Michigan's clean diesel program. And this is an annual program that Michigan has for funding. The first program we talked about was directly through EPA, the Clean School Bus Program. And the reason I want to talk to you about this today is that the Michigan Clean Diesel Program also can offer grants for electric school buses. It's some of the requirements are a little bit different, but I just wanted to include this in the presentation because it's an additional opportunity to apply for funds for an electric school bus. It's not just for electric school buses, so just I'll run through like what some of the opportunities that include. So it's brief, but I did want to include that so that folks know that Michigan directly has some grant information. So these funds are available for these are the priorities of the funding. We do prioritize zero emission and alternate fuel vehicles. I'm not going to read all the slides, and you can get a copy of these later on as well. And these are reimbursement grants, so they'll cover a certain percentage. And the vehicles or engines, they will be decommissioned. These projects need to be completed by the end of next August, although the EPA has been flexible as far as supply chain issues if they can't be completed on time. And we expect for the requests for proposals will be opening in sometime probably November. So that's the amount of funding that's available. And one of the advantages is pretty much open to anybody, not just school districts. And but it has to be a Michigan entity with a business presence here in Michigan. And for on-road vehicles, which includes school buses, it has to be fully operational, owned and operated 2 years prior to this upgrade, have at least 3 years of remaining life and highway usage of 7,000 miles a year. However, school buses can use their mileage from 1 calendar year, 2019, due to COVID. That requirement or that criteria was added. And for non-road, locomotive, marine, agriculture, these are the requirements for those. So that funding is available. And I'll tell you a bit about the percentages. So these are the eligible vehicles. And I always like to share this list because it's easier to see eligible vehicles when you can kind of see the icons of them. And then in addition, marine engines. Yeah, we just recently financed replacement of two tugboat engines. We're going to be, the program for the first time is going to be funding an electric semi, which is going to be operating in Southeast Michigan, as well as funding 1 electric school bus. And these are the percentages of replacement. 35% if you're using CNG propane, replacing that vehicle. 45% if you're going to use zero emission electric. And another additional opportunity is that you can just replace the engine and then you get a higher reimbursement amount, 50% for CNG, alternate fuels, and 60% if it's going to be a zero emissions. Projects, again, need to be completed by August 2023. And, oops, wait a second, there's one more. And I like to include this slide because sometimes this is through an organization called CalSTART. This is a great way to identify the manufacturers that are producing the different types of vehicles. If you want to find where, I can see that. Can you see that little red thing on there? And in any case, what you do is you select a vehicle platform, like you would click on school bus, select a region, and then what will pop up is which manufacturer is available for that. So this is has been a really valuable tool that CalSTART provides. So if you want more information about that, you can contact me at EGLE Clean Diesel, and there's my phone and information. So next, we're going to invite Eileen Boekestein to come and talk about EGLE's environmental education. And here, I'm going to pass this off to Eileen.
All right, I'm going to let Chrissy get the slides up for me. And while she does that, I just want to thank you again, those of you who are able to show up both in person and online. And we're hopeful that some of the information that's shared today is useful to you and inspirational to get you to be interested in bringing electric school buses to your own school district. So what I'm going to be talking about is kind of putting a point on some of that educational opportunities that are associated with electric school buses and electric vehicles in general. So it was really fun to listen in because a lot of this was covered by, the previous presentations talking about the ways that you can get involved and that students can get involved in learning from these vehicles. And I want to tell you a little bit about why I think that's important and give you some resources and some ideas for what that might look like moving forward. So if you are a district that gets an electric school bus and you want to engage your students in learning around that, we'll talk about some ideas for that. So I want to start by just telling you a couple months ago, I was reading the news and this ad popped up right in the middle of my news article. Electric cars, they're normal now. And I, of course, immediately I was like, we're going to do this Eevee event. I'm going to take a screenshot of this because I want to share that. I thought that was really interesting. Electric cars, they're normal now. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. From then on, I clicked on it. So of course, from then on, I kept getting them. They're normal now. Oh, have you heard they're normal now? And I thought, wow, what a on the nose advertisement, but really interesting to look at this and think, even a year ago, 2 years ago, these ads would have been kind of false or aspirational at best, right? But things are moving so quickly that now this is really true. I mean, I comment to my husband from time to time, man, I've really seen a lot more like electric cars driving around our neighborhood. You see them on the road, you see the chargers out and around. They really are becoming a normal part of life. And as many of our other presenters have talked about, this technology is going to be taking over and really becoming what we all need to get used to. This is important because not only are these students, these young people that we're working with now, not only are these going to be the kinds of vehicles that they're probably going to be driving, kids in middle school right now are, when they go to buy a car at some point in their lifetime, it's very likely that they'll buy an electric vehicle. And so understanding how those vehicles work, why it's important, how we're at this kind of tipping point in our economy and in our technology of, you know, very close to really taking over this EV wave. They need to understand the impact of electric vehicles. They need to understand how to drive them. They need to understand why to drive them. And they need to be involved in this process of the technology, because the electric vehicles themselves, the technology that goes into them, the batteries, the charging station, the maintenance, all of that is connected to the jobs and the workforce of the future. There are jobs out there now that did not exist when we were all in school. And like that teacher, I loved that teacher in the video that Andrew shared, because, you know, she's talking about how we're all learning about this together. And so there's work out there that students aren't aware of that we need to make them aware of, and we need to prepare them for. And using these school buses, which are right on their school property every day, are a really neat way to introduce them to those concepts. And we've heard about several examples, right, of students learning things from safety all the way up to learning about the battery, learning about the charging system, learning about the robotics and the technology that goes into it. And so it's very, very important that this educational component is connected to the actual implementation of the school bus. And as you've heard, the districts that have them have been doing a great job of that. And I'm very interested, as the education coordinator for EGLE, in working alongside existing and new districts to build those programs out so that students have even more access, and so that the good things that students are doing as part of this pilot program and part of this grant program, so that we can share that out to other districts who are just starting, so that they can also have the opportunity to connect their students to education. So I'm going to move this so you can see a little bit better. Whoops. Okay, so currently, EGLE's environmental education program has some resources that you can use right off the shelf to help educate your students around electric vehicles, around energy, around clean energy, around climate change, all those things that are kind of wrapped up and connected to the transition to cleaner fuels, cleaner modes of transportation, cleaner forms of energy production. Most of our work, if any of you out here are educators or know educators, which I assume you do because you're part of an electric school bus meeting here, we've got EGLE Classroom, which is our platform that we get out our environmental education resources to the public through online. And so there's a bunch of different programs, there's resources, there's videos, there's lessons, there's activities, all on there highlighting things like careers, highlighting things like the actual science behind the batteries and electric vehicles, and things that can be useful right off the shelf. One of those resources is the Michigan Environmental Education Curriculum Support Units, which are for shorthand called MEECs. And there's a couple of units that specifically apply to the use of electric vehicles, specifically the energy unit and the climate change unit. Climate change unit is currently being updated, so we'll have some of that new information in it. And then the energy unit, I think, could use some updating to incorporate more of this clean energy stuff, because, as you know, it's all changing so rapidly that we need to add a little bit more in there. So that's one area where I think it'd be really interesting to partner with some of your districts who are implementing these school buses, so that we could get some examples into our curriculum that we're giving out to teachers of how they can connect with their buses. And then if any of your schools participate in the Michigan Green Schools program, which is a certification program for schools that are trying to be environmentally friendly, there's a number of activities you have to do to get certified as a green school, using an electric school bus, teaching around electric school buses. All of that are activities that can count towards your green school certification. And so that really lifts the notoriety and the good feelings around your district even more, to be able to say, oh, we're a Michigan Green School. And part of what goes into that is our commitment to our students' education, to their health, to the environment, by incorporating these into our schools' day-to-day work. Students, there's so many opportunities, as we said, around electric vehicles and buses particular at the school. They create opportunities for learning that is really place-based, that isn't, you're not learning about some electric vehicle, you know, in the other side of the country, the other side of the world. You're looking at a specific vehicle in a specific place and how it functions within that place. And that place is your own neighborhood, your own community, which is really something that students feel more connected to. There's tons of research around how place-based learning is really engaging with students and helps them really connect to the project and be interested in what's going on. And that can lead into doing actual projects of their own, like the videos that you saw, where they demonstrate their learning, where they reach out, they educate others about what they're doing. And so these buses provide a really cool opportunity for that, and especially around things like batteries. So there is some faculty at University of Michigan who have been doing some research on electric vehicle batteries. And there were some students, high school students, that were working there over the summer, doing an internship, working on developing educational materials for other high school students to use around EV batteries. And I wanted to share a short clip from that because this is one of the students. She's Helen. She's a rising senior. She'll be a senior this year. And her group of students developed, I'm just blown away by students. I don't think I could have done this in high school. They developed a model, like a mathematical model that you can put the data from your school bus into, and it spits out some really interesting information that you can use to make some decisions and learn some things about your school bus. So I want to play her video for you. And I believe she was going to try to log on to the webinar. So if you have questions for her at the end, you'll hopefully be able to talk to her. I'm not sure if she's on yet, but if she was hoping to try to get on. So if you want to chat with her, she'll be able to say a few things.
Hello, everyone. My name is Helen Kaczynski, and I'm a rising senior at Ann Arbor Skyline High School. Together with Alex and Selene from Ann Arbor Pioneer, I have been working in Professor Stefanopoulou's lab to develop material that explains lithium-ion batteries for high school students. Personally, I like to understand the applicability of the material that I learn. That's why we started off by giving examples of batteries that students use in their everyday lives: cell phones, clocks, and cameras. We extended the introduction by explaining that batteries are now being used in vehicles to fight climate change. We then dove into the technical aspects of batteries. What's a lithium ion? What components make up a battery, where lithium ions and electrons flow, and why lithium of all elements is used. To go along with that, we included slides explaining the characteristics of batteries: voltage, current, capacity, and energy. Equations and real-life examples, like this drill pack, help students understand these concepts. I also created a computer simulation program using bus data to model their battery use. Students can input the speed, which is real bus routes, of an electric bus, and the program will output the battery charge, current, and voltage at every second in the route. Graphs will also be generated to allow students to see how accelerations drain the battery, and some decelerations regenerate a bit of energy and increase the battery state of charge. There are currently 7 school districts with electric school bus, which presents an opportunity to engage students in batteries. On slide 23 is an example of a real school bus route, and on slide 24, an example of output from the program. As a fun activity, students can identify the route segments on the graphs. We hope this will be a fun and engaging activity. Thank you.
So, I mean, I'm very impressed with her. I could I could definitely not have created that. I'm thinking back to like my high school physics days, you know, where you had to make the circuits, and is this in series or is this in parallel? And how fun would that be? You know, we had the little circuit boards, or we had the little, you know, like diagrams we would do on paper, but to be able to look out the window and say, okay, we went on a field trip, you know, 50 miles away, and then we came back, and how did the bus perform during that time period? What a really cool way to engage students. And there's all kinds of opportunities. That's just on the, you know, the battery, the physics side, but you can look at things like the emissions and what that impact is. You can look at the development of the buses. How does it compare to, you know, create a diesel bus versus create an electric bus? You can look at the noise levels. How does that impact, you know, hearing and health, as well as the environment around you? So there's so many opportunities that could be connected with these EV buses. And we're really, really excited to continue to work with districts to be able to extend those opportunities to more students around the state. So as I said, this is something that, you know, doesn't happen in a vacuum. And one of the things I hope you saw today and really appreciated from this presentation, especially the panel, is this idea that this is getting these buses out to districts, implementing them, working on them, getting students involved. It's not something that happens alone. It's a partnership, and we're all here to help you if you're interested in doing that. We've got MAPT who's helping, you know, bring everybody together in the state, apply for resources. You've got your local utilities that are willing to work with you on getting these installed and negotiating rates, and even getting your educational programs up and running. You've got state and federal agencies willing to support you. So this is, and the education portion of that is not something you need to do alone in your district either. We're here to help you. In the bottom corner here, there's just a little screenshot of one of our MEECS units on energy. There's a whole lesson already on energy use for transportation. Currently, the section on electric vehicles is about this big. It's about like 3 inches high because the energy unit was written in 2012. That's 10 years ago. Just to think about how much the energy sector has changed in 10 years. So there's work to be done to update that to today's standards. And it's something that I'm excited to do in partnership with districts and teachers and students, because as you see, students really do an amazing job of helping take our own learning to the next level. So that's my contact information. I am available. Again, if any of you are currently if you currently have buses and you want to work together, or you're thinking about applying for buses and you want to work together, or maybe you don't have a bus, but you just want to talk about EVs in general. That's my job. I'm here for you to talk about that stuff. I'm happy to help promote this program across the state. And I'm really grateful to be able to share what we've done and what we're doing with you all already. And with that, oh, okay. I'm going to kick off the Q&A session with a question that I have, which is for Andrew. And I've asked you this question on email, but I want to ask it on the record so that others can hear the answer too. But I thought the REV program was really incredible, and the work that the students did and the promotion that they got to do. And I'm wondering how other districts that wanted to participate in the REV educational opportunities could get involved. Is that something they can do on their own? Do they need to work directly with the foundation, or do they go through a utility? So how would that work if they're outside your service area?
So National Energy Foundation works directly through the utilities that serve different areas. So because their objective is to make the education on energy or REV free to the schools. So in the case of Upper Peninsula Power Company, we've worked with them for elementary education for 12, 14 years now. So it was a natural extension to work with them for our middle and high school students. Other utilities, and the way it typically works is that there is a charge per student, and then to the utility, and then the schools get both.
Andrew, I'm going to ask you to repeat that in a mic that actually works.
Well, thank you, everyone. I'll just repeat it again. So for UPPCO, we have worked with National Energy Foundation for 10, 14 years. So it was a natural extension, but for other schools that want to participate, I would encourage them to reach out to the utility to ask to participate, because the National Energy Foundation delivers directly to the students and the schools. They have teachers that go into the schools, or they can do it virtually, but they do it at no cost to the school or to the teachers. So that's where the partnership between National Energy Foundation and the utilities is very strong, so that the students never realize that they're getting this education, and there is a cost to it. So that's how we have worked, and that's how National Energy Foundation has structured all of their programs. And they, as you saw on the slide, they have programs in all 50 states.
Sorry about our technical difficulties here. I'll give it
I
back
feel
to
like we're
Eileen.
doing really well.
I'll give it back to you.
Given the complexity of the hybrid situation. I do appreciate everybody's patience. Thank you for that answer. I know that others watching this are going to be really interested in participating in programs like that. And knowing that it gets available at no cost to the students or to the school is a real benefit. So with that, I've got everybody's contact information, or at least the primary speakers, up on the slide here. Katrina, if you are interested in talking to or asking questions of the folks on the panel, I'm sure Katrina can make those connections for you. And with that, I want to turn it back over to you, Irene, to do questions and answers and wrap up. We're running a little bit ahead of schedule, which is fantastic. So we'll get you out a little bit early. And
Thank you.
Up to you.
Sure. I have one question for Katrina. Earlier, before the presentation started, we talked about range, and I know you did touch on range anxiety, but you had mentioned that you actually saw a demo vehicle, and can you just tell us about that? Because you had mentioned that what the range was and a little bit about that vehicle. I know it's one in the future, but can you just tell us about that?
BYD is currently in looking to get into the school bus industry, and they do have a prototype out, and they're saying that it goes 250 miles on their range. We also know that International has a 200-mile range battery. So, you know, they are getting longer, and technology is just going to continue to evolve.
Thank you. I think Kenny also has something to say, so we'll pass it. Let's pass the mic to Kenny. Kenny Jean Schrader.
I just wanted to elaborate on that, because we've all spoken about how much technology is moving forward. When we began our program, our bus, in order to maintain a 100-mile range, the battery technology at that time would have taken about 5 batteries. By the time that we had gotten started to the time that we had ordered our buses, that technology had increased to where they could put the 5 battery technology into 4 batteries, which afforded us more range on that 5th battery. So it's always changing.
And to add what Kenny is saying, when I was out Reno, Nevada, about a month ago at the STN conference, I see the new Lion buses that only have 2 batteries. So things are really changing in the battery world.
Thank you. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for participating in this hybrid event and for traveling here. And we just want to support you in every possible way, and all of our folks that are online and here. And whether it's through the educational aspects of the school buses as mobile laboratories in the schools, or in as far as getting buses into your school and financing them. So just thank you all for participating. Really appreciate all of your work and expertise that you brought here today. Thanks.